Welcome to this angular linear gauge component tutorial. In this video, I will show you how to add and customize ranges, labels, and pointers for the Syncfusion angular linear gauge component. First, I open an existing Angular application to which I have already added a linear gauge component with an axis. To learn how to add Syncfusion angular linear gauge to an app, follow the link provided in the card above or the video description below. Now I run this example using the command ng-serve to show the initial demo. The angular linear gauge component is rendered. By default, the linear gauge renders vertically. To display in a horizontal direction, I set the orientation property to horizontal. Now the linear gauge renders horizontally. Next, to customize the majored ticks, I declare an object named majored ticks. I specify its color as green. To have intervals between major ticks, I set the interval property to 10. Similarly, I declare an object minor ticks and add the same properties with appropriate values. I then assign these objects to the major ticks and minor ticks properties of the axis stack. You can see the customized ticks. By default, ticks are positioned inside the axis. You can also position outside or across the axis. To demonstrate, I set the position property to cross to major and minor ticks. Checking now, the major and minor ticks are displayed across the axis. By default, the starting value 0 is shown from the left. You can also show it from the right by inverting the axis. I set the is-inverse property to true in the axis stack. See, the axis is inversed. Next, let me show you how to customize the labels. To change the font color, I define a label style object. I set the font color with a custom value. By default, the label position is auto. I set the position property to outside. I also change the offset, which defines the distance between the label and ticks, from 0 to 10. I assign this object to the label style property of the axis stack. The label color has changed, and they are displayed outside the axis. By default, the label is rendered with numeric values. To change the format of the label, I use the format property. You can use it to display numeric formats such as currency or percentage. In this example, to set the currency format, I set the format property to C in the JS linear gauge tag. As you can see, labels are rendered with currency symbols. Next, let me show you how to add one more axis to a linear gauge. To make this part clear, I will change the position to inside. I add an object named line1 to set height and color of the axis. Similarly, I add major and minor ticks object to set its color. And I remove the format property. Then I add one more axis with line, major, and minor ticks properties. To display this axis in the opposite direction, I set the opposed position property to true. See, now, the linear gauge renders with two axes. Next, I will show you how to customize ranges. First, I comment out the second axis tag and add the ranges tag. I add a single range tag with basic properties, start and end values. The linear gauge now renders with the defined range and equal width. To display it with a different width, I set the start width and end width properties to 5 pixels and 10 pixels. I set the range color to blue using the color property. To show the labels in the same color as the range color, I set the Use Range Color property to True inside the Label Style property. See now, the width and color of the range are customized. Next, I will show you how to add one more range. I add one more range tag and specify start, end, and color values. Notice that the component renders with two ranges. Now let's customize the pointers by changing the shape of the marker pointer. You can change the marker type to rectangle, triangle, diamond, and so on. To demonstrate clearly, I comment out this eRanges tag. I add the ePointers tag. Inside it, I add ePointed tag. I set the value property to 40. I will change the shape of the marker pointer from the default inverted triangle to a circle. To achieve that, I set the marker type property to circle. I set the height and width properties to 3 and color to the appropriate value. Now the shape and color of the marker are changed. The linear gauge supports two types of pointers, bar and marker. The default type is marker. Now I will show you how to change the pointer type and add one more pointer. I add an additional ePointed tags. I set the value property to 30 and specify the type as bar. Additionally, set the color to an appropriate value and the animation duration to 1000. See, two pointers are rendered. In this video, I have shown you how to add and customize ranges, labels, and pointers for the Syncfusion Angular Linear Gauge component. You can download the example used in this video from that GitHub link in the video description. I have also provided a link to see if you qualify for a free license key to use our Angular components through our community license. If you found this video useful, please like and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.